Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast, a podcast carefully designed to introduce a wide range of very talented and highly skilled professionals ready to share their knowledge and advice with you. Please welcome the host of I Got a Guy podcast, Michael Drelichars. Welcome to I Got a Guy podcast. I'm your host, Michael Drelichars. Thank you so much for being with us again this week. We appreciate your loyalty and your subscribing to our show. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so, and you'll be notified every time we post a new episode, which is generally every week. Each week, we have different guests on the show trying to help small businesses grow. And as many of you know, this show was born out of reading the book called The Go-Giver. And in small businesses, you grow your business through networking. It's a common belief that this is the best way to grow a small business, especially when you're starting a new business or have a young business trying to reach out to more people. Your networking connections can be the source of a lot of leads and opportunities. But the interesting concept is many people think of referral networks as getting referrals. The premise behind the book, The Go-Giver, is the way you get referrals is by giving referrals. And it's a fascinating story. I encourage you all to read it if you haven't read it. Bob Berg is the author, and love for you to read that and kind of be inspired as I was inspired some time back. In that book, there are 5 laws of stratospheric success. And one law, I actually use this law pretty frequently to highlight my guest for the week. But as you get to know this guest this week, you're going to see how this is such an applicable law to what he does. And I'm focusing on the law of value, and it's defined by give more in value than you receive in payment. Give more in value than you receive in payment. So think about that as I introduce our guest and we get talking with his services. If you haven't listened to our past episodes, I encourage you to go to igotaguypodcast.com. That is igotaguypodcast.com. You'll see a list of all of our episodes, a brief synopsis of each episode, and a link to the audio podcast as well as the video podcast that we're hosting on YouTube and Rumble. So if you want to watch our podcast, certainly welcome to do that as well. And then I encourage you all to share this with your sphere of influence. Tell them how awesome they were. And when you call our guests for their services, let them know you heard about them here on I Got a Guy podcast. So let's get into this week's episode. This week, we have a unique business that we haven't had highlighted on our show before. We have John Doherty with us, and his business is called The Family Album. So, John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah, it is a good way to promote your business, and I know you have a young business, so I'd love to help you get the word out on the street and get people to know who you are and what you do. Why don't you tell us a little bit about The Family Album?
Well, at the Family Album Company, I started a year ago after working with an agency. I take the pain and frustration out of preserving family archives. So think about your videotapes, your photographs, scrapbooks, old wedding albums that are pictures still stuck in plastic. That's not good for the pictures long term. And I really have a passion about preserving history. The company was born out of my desire to bring the same level of professionalism that I was delivering to institutions such as libraries and museums and high net worth individuals to consumers, because I really believe all our history is important and where we come from is important, and knowing what our ancestors went through to get us here really kind of puts a little stiffness in our shoulders and our back and lets us carry on.
Yeah, certainly. Well, yeah, when you think about it, it's always amazing when you find an old picture, and that even if it hasn't been preserved and it's tattered, but you automatically go into understanding what the stories were going on at that point in time, mm-hmm. and it's something that is very valuable. Understanding your history, understanding where you came from, and it's that's fascinating. So you convert videotapes into other medium sources?
Yeah, so
slides?
the basic part of the company is people give me their VHS tapes, their camcorder tapes. There's so many different formats when you think about people of maybe our age as we went through this
Right.
video conversion from the reel to reel to the VHS, the camcorder, and then we went to digital camcorders, and I went to mini camcorders, and I went to camcorders with discs in them. So
Right.
now everyone has all these tapes, and some of them have converted to VHS, but no one has VHS players anymore. And the
Right.
interesting thing is that medium that we recorded everything on is actually decaying. So those tapes don't last forever. And I'm seeing now um, the heyday of the VHS was like late 70s up to like early 2000s. And so we're talking going back some 45 years on some of these tapes, some 30 years. So, and you start seeing a little degradation. Some, depending on where they were stored, you can get a lot of degradation in the tape, and you get a lot of crackling. There's not a whole lot we can do if they're really damaged, but um, many of them are broken too. So I repair them. I know how to take apart the tapes, repair them, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the basic customer of the business. But what I like to do is I offer free pickup and delivery because I don't believe in shipping your family memories. I don't care if someone says they're insured, you're not going to get it back. You really
Right.
can't put a price on it.
It's priceless.
So
It
in
really is.
Chicagoland, I pick up and deliver. Um, and that's just part of in the cost. I don't charge per mile or anything like that. Um, and I don't track my miles well, which is probably why I need to work with you and get some tracking on my
Hey,
on my
there you go. We
vehicle.
can certainly help you there.
um, and what I really want to do is just want to take the pain out of people preserving their memories. Everyone has boxes of tapes. Everyone has photographs. You have your parents' probably wedding album or some history, and so that's what I really, really enjoy. At my old, I've put together archives for families and institutions going back to the 1800s in my career, and in my business, I've most recently I did a whole job for a couple whose parents were Holocaust survivors, and their history
Wow.
went back to the 1890s, and they had incredible photographs like the Hindenburg's sister ships in Germany in the air, postcards like that, postcards from the front of World War One, in front of the trenches, and on the World War One front, and there are letters written from a. I have a friend in Germany who translated these postcards, and they'd have a picture on the one side and writing on the back like a postcard. And it was, he said, it was just like any other 17, 18-year-old kid at the front lines of war, scared out of their mind, not knowing
Mm.
when the enemy was going to attack, not knowing when they were going to be ordered to charge, and just terrifying words, not knowing when I'm, words like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to write again or see you ever again, Mom. I miss you all. As you can tell, I get a little choked up about this history stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So a lot of times though is I will get bins of pictures or photographs. In my old role, the Plumbers Union of Chicago gave me 4 feet square Rubbermaid containers of their history and said, figure it out. So it becomes just a big puzzle. So for the couple that had the Holocaust survivors, I had to break everything up by decades. There was no rhyme or reason how they gave it to me, so I tried breaking it up by decades. Then it really is like a mystery. Like you'll come across a picture like, wow, this looks just like that kid back then at that decade. Oh,
Right.
that must be him when he's a little bit younger. So it just gets
Right.
all pieced together, and so it makes some sense. And I really encourage people if they have aging relatives and they can go through these pictures and just write on the back who's in them. When I scan photos, I do the front and the back. If there's writing on the back, my scanner will pick it up, and then their names, so they're married, as so they'll always stay together.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that, and it's just a lot of fun for me. and I know I'm preserving stuff that people have in their attics or in their crawl spaces. I hope not in basements, crawl spaces, because the humidity will just destroy things. But um, I just love doing it, and the reactions I get from people when I hand them back the stuff and they get a chance to look at it is really heartwarming and amazing, because there's not many companies like mine out here doing it, especially not that
Sure.
are offering pickup and delivery in
Right.
Chicagoland.
Right.
Um, so people are usually saying, "I didn't know you could do that. Oh my God, I got it." And the words I hear a lot are, "I got to get all my stuff together," and that's just a hurdle. That's just a barrier. I'm like, you don't have to. Just give me the bin. I'll figure it out.
Right.
Um, because if you and I don't, my goal is not to digitize as many things as possible. My goal is to build an archive that is relevant and fun to watch and educates you. So if you remember, when we used to send a film to Walgreens, and you get back the photo envelope or a 24-hour photo or the photo mat. It wasn't a photo mat, I think.
Photomat was one of them. Yeah, that was the drive up one.
Yeah, out of those, I think 12 photos, 16 photos in a reel, whatever they were. There's maybe 3 or 4 you'd like to keep. You
Right.
know, we got cameras, and no one was trained in how to take a picture. Lots of
Right.
backlighting, and they're just horrible. So if people want to give me that stuff, that's great. But I also try telling people, and I have some stuff on Instagram that I'm going to be adding up now, is you can take that big bin of photos, you sit back, if so choose, have a cocktail or something. You could have music on or watching a TV show, and you have your box of photos, you have a shoebox, and you have a garbage can. And you just go through them, keep, throw away, throw away, throw away, throw away. And you'll probably end up keeping about 20% of the photos. And for a sense of how much is in a shoebox, if you stack 100 photos, well, every inch has 100 photos in it. So a shoebox is approximately 11 inches long. So that's 1,100 photos. Take an index card or a piece of paper and shove it in, 1975, 1976. And it just breaks, because that's how I would name it, into a folder.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's really quite simple and fun. And unlike a lot of online digitization services, they'll give you a teaser rate of a photo of like 8 cents. And then, oh, you want it to look good? That's another,
Sure.
4 cents. If you want it at a resolution that you could actually see on your computer or your phone, that's another. So I just do one price for a picture. It's 25 cents. And it comes with software enhancements. So I have pictures of like when I was a kid, my grade school picture, and it's just all like faded. And the software just makes it perfect. It's like I'm looking at your photo, your picture right now. It's that crisp.
Yeah.
So I say my goal is just to build great archives, not to nickel and dime people
Mm-hmm.
and scan as many. I'm not going to be scanning pictures of blank faces. That's or duplicates. We did a lot of duplicates back in the day too.
Yeah.
So
That was, we have a drawer full of old photographs. And my wife always ordered double prints,
mhm,
assuming you'd want to share with somebody.
right,
I think that happened very rarely,
yeah, that
but
you shared, yeah,
yeah, yeah, because half of them were bad pictures, and the other ones were multiples of the same image because you weren't sure if it was going to turn out. So
right,
because you didn't have instant view like you do with the digital pictures nowadays on your
hmm,
phone or on a digital camera, you had to take a leap of faith and just in case take a couple extra.
sure, sure,
So yeah, I can certainly relate with that, and it's interesting because the technology has changed drastically, and I went through
hmm,
this exercise a few years ago, and I realized that most of the videotapes that we have taken are the uh, digital videotapes, the small ones, and
yeah,
DHC or something.
uh huh,
Anyway,
yeah,
the camcorder stopped working,
right,
and that was my only source to watch the videos. So I had to
It's
hunt
literally the
around.
only story. Yeah.
Right. And I hunted around. I found a friend that had a similar format camera,
Hmm.
and I was able to then copy them off to a hard drive. But then to be able to watch them is cumbersome as well. You
Hmm.
take it to a different level, though, right? So you take the video footage in any virtually any format,
Hmm.
and you put it up in the cloud.
Well, that is an option. I give you a thumb drive that you can plug into any smart TV now.
Okay.
Um, they're that easy. It's kind of like your hard drive, but they're just so
Yeah.
much. They're easier to work with now. It's amazing how
Sure.
much you can get a terabyte of data on a thumb drive now. It's truly amazing. But I would say an archive, a lot of videos on an archive is going to be maybe 500 gigs. Like I did a job of like 180 2-hour tapes. That's a lot. That's an outlier. But usually for photos and a couple of videotapes, you're looking at maybe 20 gigabytes. So it's not that much storage. But what I also can do is I can build private YouTube channels. So like you have your hard drive, like you mentioned, and you're like, oh, sometimes it gets to work on the TV. You just put it up in YouTube, make your channel completely private, and share the access information with your family if you want to give it to your family. But I mean, with your kids, and you can just go through and you in the descriptions you could type in exactly what's on the tape instead of like 1998. You can say Mary's recital, Jimmy's t-ball game, something like that, or our trip to Disney, our trip wherever. I've seen a lot of trips to Disney, a lot of trips to Disney, and a
No
lot of
doubt.
Chuck E. Cheese parties. That's when you got to click that volume switch real fast in my office.
No doubt. So then
Yeah.
so on this private YouTube channel, do you have like folders for each decade, for example, or each event?
So
Or
so each tape has its own file.
okay,
I haven't broken them down yet. That's I don't think people would want to pay the hourly rate to do that. That's pretty involved, but that's
yeah,
what fast
right,
forward's for, really.
right, right,
Once it's up there, you can fast forward. You can put it on you go to YouTube on your TV now with all these smart TVs, and you
sure,
watch it on your TV. And
right,
like I have a daughter in San Francisco. We can actually sit there and watch the tape together, but be on the phone together and
nice,
just laughing and stuff like that.
sure.
And the kids like picking on each other and like how much ice cream are you shoving in your face at once? Comments like that.
Right, right.
So it's a lot of fun and it keeps you connected. And for my kids who I lost my mother back in '99, my mother-in-law just passed away recently. It's seeing and hearing those voices really touches them because
Oh,
like my
without a
kids were
doubt.
very young when my mother passed, and like they remember her, and she had an Irish brogue, and it just triggered, like they have that memory deep in
Sure.
their recesses of their brain, and it comes out, and it's really touching. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's got to be an emotional experience to like
Yeah,
relive
and it's like
that.
they're right there again. And then they
Yeah,
ask, "Well, tell me the story about Grandma again, about how she came over here, and
right.
um, all the stuff that she went through in order to have 7 kids and put them all through college." So,
But that's
um,
that's a great way for families to stay connected and to not forget about the history. We get going
yeah,
in our lives so fast, and we're in this instant gratification society
hmm
that we often forget about. We as a society forget about how we got there, and so
hmm
you really help keep people connected with their history. I think it's
yeah, we have to
powerful.
keep that thread through
Yeah,
generations. Um,
absolutely.
and I feel that we are losing our history to the digital future, and we will lose it. It will go away unless we put it in this digital format. Because
Yeah,
I
you're exactly
guarantee
right.
you, your kids do not want those bins of pictures. No,
Right.
these generations are not buying these big houses in the suburbs of scenes as much anymore. They don't want the space. They want to travel. They want to be moving other places. And
Yeah. But more importantly, to your point you touched on earlier is even if they want that bin of memories, it will deteriorate over time, and then it'll become
yes,
useless.
correct.
So So it's kind of it serves a dual purpose.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
truly preserving it and making it easy to utilize it and benefit from it.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I
that's
hear a lot
important.
of times from people like in their 50s or 60s saying, "Oh, my sister took all that stuff. I don't know what she did with it." And I would love to go see those photos. Like, well,
Yeah,
contact them and reach out to them. And sometimes they say, "Well, I really don't talk to them." And I say, "Well, give me their number. I'll call them." And I'll just say, "Hey, I'm working on a family archive here. Do you have anything you'd like to contribute?" Or go about that
right,
way so it's not confrontation. Just
right,
mediate it some way to get these memories and put them
right.
together.
Yeah,
So I try to help as much as I can to just preserve it. That's just
yeah.
what I do and what I'm about.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really I'm thrilled to hear your story, John. We're going to take a quick break here, and then come back. I got a few more questions I want to ask you, and I want to make sure that our listeners can reach out to you if they want to, talk about preserving their memories. First of all? So before we take our break, share how they should best contact you. Your phone number, email address. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Well, the easiest way for me is a phone number,
Okay,
847-951-8220. That's my personal cell phone. I'm always
Re-
on it like everyone else.
sure. Repeat that
I
one more
also have
time for us.
847-951-8220.
Okay, great. I will put
My
that on the screen and in
okay,
the show notes.
great. My email is john at thefamilyalbum.co. Co. There's no M.
John at thefamilyalbum.co.
Yeah, that M costs a lot of money.
Got it. Got it.
And my website is the family www.thefamilyalbum.co.
Okay.
And you can go there and see a lot of photos from my archive, some before and after shots of what I can do with pictures, especially with old military photos. They're really
Hmm.
cool how those faded pictures can come back to life. And like my kid said, "Grandpa, you were hot." He's a sailor in uniform. They're like, "Holy cow!" So
Right.
yeah, so those are these. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. Same thing, the Family Album Company, where I try posting jobs I'm doing and sharing and seeing what, hopefully inspiring other people to pick up the phone and call me and have a discussion about what you have and how I can help.
That's great. Okay. I'm gonna put all that information in the show notes. I'll put it on the screen for our viewers to see it as well. But certainly hope that they reach out to you and let them know that they heard about you here on I Got a Guy podcast. But let's take a quick break. We'll be back and we'll continue with a few more questions and continue our conversation. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. I hope you're getting a lot of knowledge from this week's guest. But now a word from our sponsor. If your business uses heavy equipment as part of its daily routine, sadly, I don't need to educate you on the reality that this equipment has been the focus of many local thieves either. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions works with business owners that own commercial vehicles and heavy equipment. We help these business owners enhance their growth and profit through the use of GPS tracking technology. Recovering a stolen asset is just one way we contribute to the bottom line of the business. Our GPS tracking units used in heavy equipment are weather tight so they can handle the elements and even have an internal battery to continue to report its location should the battery in the asset be disconnected. We have several examples of the benefits of GPS tracking in heavy equipment. Reach out to Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions for a detailed discussion about our options and to see if it makes sense for your business. You can find Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions at precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or call us at 847-865-6008. Precise Fleet Tracking Solutions. GPS tracking made simple. Now, back to the show. Okay, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. I'm Michael Drelichars, host of I Got a Guy podcast. And I'm thrilled to have a guest this week, which is really trying to preserve our history. Please, let's thank John Doherty for joining us again this week. John, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michael. I'm really enjoying the show so far. It's great.
Yeah. And your business is the Family Album Company,
Hmm.
preserving memories and history. and that's tremendous value you're offering to so many families. John, I wanted a couple of questions that came to mind as we were chatting here in the first half of the show. Um, what about older tapes, the reel-to-reel tapes? The videos that you had the big projector with the light bulb
Hmm.
in it, and that click, 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 click.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know what format those were, but those were that's probably from back from the 50s, right?
yeah. That's considered 8 millimeter.
That's 8
There's
millimeter.
no
Okay,
sound. There's no sound on those.
right.
Um, I contract with a friend of mine who handles those. Are really kind of one-offs,
Hmm.
and he's local to me, so I drive him over, and I do. He does them for me. Um, those are really interesting. I have to warn your viewers is that that can be very costly too. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes because those are really old and getting pretty a little faded, a little crispy. So
Fragile.
yeah, so it's cool to see really really great grandparents on them. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I can if I have things like that, I contract with a friend of mine.
Okay. Yeah, I know my family happens to have several. My parents were did a lot of videotapes
Hmm.
when we were younger. My sisters, there's probably aren't as many with me, but my sisters, yeah, and that was back in the 50s, so that
Hmm.
was pretty common. But I just didn't think that they might get fragile, but that medium,
Yeah.
that acetate could crack
Hmm.
probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. In fact, as they're running and being digitized, sometimes they break. And my friend is a repair expert and can repair the tape. A lot of splicing and tape, and
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
that old. You might have a huge, like a big reel, like almost a foot, and it's really not that much in time in terms of
Right.
viewing length. So
Yeah, it might be an hour
it's
or half an hour worth of video.
yeah, yeah. So um, you might have a ton of tapes, but it's really not that much time to watch them. So
Right.
digitizing is really great because they fit on a thumb drive and you can watch them. And,
Right.
and they're fun. They have that unique quality that, wow, this is, you're watching something from so far back.
Right.
Um,
Well, and it's I find entertaining when even when I watch an old television show, as the hairstyles are so different, the clothes are
mhm,
different, the cars are different, the furniture
yeah.
is different in the background.
Hmm.
You just those things that were commonplace back then are so
Right.
foreign nowadays that the kids get a kick out of it, and it's
Hmm.
when you see the sofa with the plastic covers on them,
Or the three
that
people riding in the front seat of the station wagon.
right, exactly. So it's just that snapshot in time that frankly we've lost. We've changed. Our society has
Hmm.
changed, and it's just different. And so it's really important to preserve that for historical purposes. And so, but at least so you can go back to the really old stuff,
Hmm.
even though it may be um, more expensive and it may have some other challenges because of the age of the
Yeah.
medium.
Hmm.
You still might be able to preserve that.
Yeah. Yeah. We get, it'll look good enough for, it'd be like if you're watching, I think there was a show called This Is Us, and part of the lead in was old pictures and pull them up in the station wagon. It's a little grainy and
Green,
stuff, but
sure.
it's still worth watching and enjoyable, especially to maybe your children now to see what happened, what life was like back then. It's much
Right,
different,
right.
you know.
So how about slides? Can you convert slides into a digital medium too?
Yeah, I can do slides and negatives. It's just takes a little bit longer to do, So what we do is we put slides in trays of six, and then we put them on a scanner, and the scanner scans each one, and they turn out really well. It was a great medium. It's just a little cumbersome.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
There, there was a period of time where that was real popular,
Mm-hmm.
and then you'd
Yeah.
have the carousel and the click 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 click, and you'd it
And
would
one's
rotate
upside
around.
down, and wait, hold on, I gotta,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
backwards.
yeah. But
Um,
and that was probably in the '60s, I would think, that the slides were real
Yeah,
popular. Is that about
yeah,
right?
yes, 60s and into the 70s. But the the quality is of the photo is excellent. It really was an excellent medium. It's
Yeah,
just
because it was
cumbersome.
more like a negative
Yeah,
than it was actually a print.
yeah. So, and I do the negatives too, and they all turn out great. It's just more time consuming because you can only do them, you know,
A
you
few at a
put them all
time.
in a
Yeah.
tray, scan them. So
Right.
it
Right.
just takes a little longer. But a lot of people still have them in their carousels.
Right.
So what you used to do is you just buy the carousel. So I've seen closets of like 30 carousels. So you can imagine how much space that takes up.
Right. And
And
to put
then
it
when you're
all on a
down,
thumb drive.
yeah, and then you're downsizing. You're like, well, what am I going to do with this? So even if I take them out of the carousels obviously to scan, but then I put them in, you know, tray boxes where they're just
Hmm.
lined up one after another to preserve them and keep them if people want them. We have a lot of guilt about throwing stuff out. You
Right.
never know, like, oh, I don't want to lose this, even though I have it digitally.
Right.
Um, but we can condense that space an awful lot,
Yeah.
and so
So let's take that thought one step farther. So you have this thumb drive. You could very easily lose the thumb drive, right?
mhm.
Do you
Right.
recommend
So
backing it up to an online storage, a cloud storage in some way, or uh, replicating the thumb drive so you have multiple copies? Or what do you recommend there?
I recommend is I give you the thumb drive. We can load it up to YouTube to be in the cloud, but also you could put it in like I use Google Drive for personal and business. And I
Hmm.
think personal, you get a lot of storage for free on Google Drive. Put them in there. So you have Google, which is one of the biggest companies in the world. You have YouTube, which is is that part of Google too? But
Right.
if you go to, there's some other smaller, like I would call them like boutique cloud storage. And there was one recently that a lot of people were using, and a lot of scrapbook people were using. They told me they just shut down. It was a Shutterfly or something. It was a fairly well known site, and they
Wow.
just closed down. And they didn't tell people, or they gave them a day. And if you missed that
So it's all
email,
gone.
it's all gone.
Holy cow! See
Yeah.
that's my fear, and that's my fear is you got you need the belts and suspenders.
Yes, you
You need
sure
the
do.
backup of the backup.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
used to, before I got into this business, I had a fancy external hard drive on the iMac thing on the desktop that the kids used, and they had that photo booth feature, and all the kids
Hmm.
taking pictures in it and stuff. And but we had a lot of family video and photos on it, and I said, oh, okay, I looked it up on everywhere I could find. Okay, get this hard drive, plug it in, dump everything. So I did it, and then the iMac died. I was like, oh, great, I'm protected. And then 6 years later, I'm like, oh, I should upload this to YouTube. Plugged it in and it started smoking
Mm,
because those drives now, like if you're doing an external hard drive, do an SSD card as opposed to the metal. It's basically a metal record player.
right.
And what happened with mine was that needle and just scratched all the way. So I spent like $700 to send it up to this lab, where they're wearing the hazmat suits and everything, and
Clean
get stuff
rooms.
off
Yeah.
it. And I got some Excel spreadsheets and silly phone booth pictures. It was
Yeah.
just some
Yeah. I have an
quiet
old.
time in the old house with the wife for a week.
Yeah. I have an old hard drive that I also can't access. And so it's again as the technology keeps morphing itself and
Hmm.
transforming itself into the next generation. Oftentimes, the older stuff is left behind.
Right.
So you have to have enough diversity in your backups
Hmm.
to make sure
Yeah.
that you can always access that content, especially after you invest some size of money
Hmm.
into doing all this preservation. You don't want to
Yeah.
waste it.
And if
You
you think
know.
about it, so I did 100 over 180 tapes for a family that their three children were performing arts people. They did
Hmm.
plays, they did musicals. They were very talented, all the way from they videotaped from first grade to grad school, and then one of them was in commercials on television.
Wow.
So they wanted to give them to their kids as Christmas gifts. So if it's really not hard for me to put stuff on separate thumb drives, and depending on what the thumb drive is, it's $10 to $25 maybe, unless it's a really big one. And
Sure.
everyone then had a copy in the family. I had 3 kids, and then the parents had one. There were 4 copies of the same thing. They all had it. It was all protected, and then it was up to them if they wanted to move it somewhere else. But
Sure.
if one of them moved and lost it, there was another one someone else had, and
Right.
copying those is simple also. So it doesn't cost much to back up. YouTube's free. It's just time. And if you want me to do it, I'll just charge by time. Um, and Google's free unless you have a
Right.
huge archive, and you might have to, but storage is incredibly cheap now. I mean, it's
Right.
really, really inexpensive
Yeah.
to
Compared to
save all your storage.
back 30 or 40 years ago,
Yeah.
it has come down drastically.
Yeah.
So there really is no reason not to back it up and have multiple
Hmm.
versions of it, because
Yeah.
it's not a cost issue. It's you know
Hmm.
so it's prudent advice, I guess, is the bottom line.
Yes. Yes.
So that's great. That's awesome. So you've been doing this for about a year, but you've been in the industry of doing this for quite some time. You were saying, right? You did
Yeah. So I
commercial
worked
stuff
on
before
some
that.
really, pardon?
You were doing commercial work archives
Yeah.
before you got into your family
Yeah.
album
So
business.
we did bit work for the Art Institute of Chicago. Um, I worked with Oprah Winfrey's photographers for when she had her big parties out in Santa Barbara, like the Quincy Jones birthday party, Maya Angelou party, and it's all the wonderful people out in Hollywood.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
but also did like the Newberry Library downtown Chicago is like a research map library. So they had been waiting 30 years to digitize their Italian map collection, which is the largest Italian map collection outside of Italy. And it goes back to I think it was the 15th and 16th century.
Really?
So we digitized them, and you can go on their website now and see our work. I project managed that, and it was quite a challenge. Some of those maps were 8 feet long, so capturing them with some special equipment, but then stitching it and making sure it's just perfect.
Sure.
So that was really interesting. Like I said, I did the Plumbers Union Archive. They're the people who turned the river green in Chicago on St. Patrick's Day.
There
So
you
they
go.
were up. They're the president of that union was president for like 45 years. They go back to like the 1890s, and they've only had like 6 presidents. And the president of the union grew up across the street from the Mayor Daley. So they kind of were very powerful in the city of Chicago. They
Nice.
actually graduated their apprentices at the Petrilla Band Shell in Grant Park. Everyone was in
Hmm.
tuxedos. I mean, it was just the heyday of the unions, and
Sure.
any Democratic presidential contender came through Chicago, went to the Union Hall. I mean, it's
Sure.
a really fascinating archive that they wanted. And like I said, it was just a mess when they gave them. I found tickets to the Columbian Exposition in the bottom of one of those massive bins I talked about earlier. Perfectly preserved. I don't know how it was perfectly preserved. It was just sitting there under a pile of stuff.
Really.
And so when you're doing an archive like that, or anyone's archive, and you get bins, you just have to take everything out, and then you just start making piles and figuring out what goes where and when, um, and sometimes you got to be careful. We've run into some stuff with like there's like weird powders and substances, so we mask up and glove up, and like who knows what this
Sure.
stuff is because it's
Right.
been sitting in the back recesses of an old hall somewhere for a long time. So
Right.
also did Daughters of the American Revolution. They do a scrapbook every year, and that goes back to the 1800s. We did. I don't know if you're familiar with Graceland Cemetery on the north side of Chicago by Wrigley Field.
I've heard of it.
It's like a who's who. of Chicagoans
Sure.
buried here. Ernie Banks was just interned there, and they had these books. It was like a scene out of Hogwarts, or or Harry Potter, and I just opened these huge ledgers, and they were really heavy, and they had these women who are at least over 60 years old working, like volunteering in the cemetery office, and they could barely lift them. So we captured them, and it would just read across like the date, the birth date, the name, how they passed away. A lot of influenza back then, and but what always strikes me is when I'm doing really old stuff is the penmanship, like the Daughters of American Revolution, the cemetery. I just did a real love story um, from the 40s. The penmanship is perfect. I mean,
Right.
absolutely. You would think a computer wrote it somehow. And it's fascinating. Like that love story was a family gave me their archive, and their mother kept all the love letters from their father when they were dating in the
Hmm.
40s. So he served in the war, Second World War, went to college on the GI Bill in Central Illinois, and was courting her from 46 to 49. And he wrote her a love letter every day, sometimes
Wow.
twice a day. And the mother saved them all. And then she had them all in the original envelopes also. So, I mean,
Fascinating. That,
it,
that's
it
that's
was,
that's awesome.
it's really cool. And he would write like little notations on the flap of the envelope, calling her all these little pet names, and they wanted everything. So it was really a challenge, because I don't know if you remember that old paper, and like when my mom wrote airmail back home to Ireland, it was that real like tissuey paper, really
Hmm.
thin paper. And so companies, digitization companies, scanning companies, you really make your money when you can put a stack of 100 sheets of paper in the scanner and it just goes. Well,
Right.
you can't do that with these type of
It
materials.
shred it all, wouldn't it?
Right. And the thing is, you have to know that ahead of time before you put it in, that it's not going to work. So I have
Right.
multiple different flat banner sheet fed scanners and I set them appropriately. But the envelopes are tricky because they crinkle, it's just different. It's multiple pages in one,
Sure.
and trying to get, and you can't put it in with the flap open. So it just takes more time to really make it look right. And then I just, as a love of mine, like the love notes on the back, if they're like really faded, I can make them pop a little bit with a little touch up. But things like that is so much fun. I tell you, I've been telling people that story since it was around Valentine's Day. And I mean, I've seen women I've told like actually kind of get misty eyed, like, oh my god, because now you get a text, 3
Sure.
days, once every 3 or 4 days, and it
Right.
says
Yeah. Yeah. It's
sup.
totally different. Different society right now.
Yeah,
But
so just the fact that he wrote the letters and then that she preserved them. I also had them laid out for over 3 weeks under heavy books, trying to flatten them because
sure.
they've been folded for 70 years.
Sure.
So trying to read in the crinkles where it was folded gets tough. So it's just things like that. That if you send your stuff away, you're not going to get that service.
No.
Even with the
No. That.
tapes, the VHS tapes that might have. It might even be like the tape is dirty or the heads are dirty, but like a larger, I don't want to say the company name, like the tapes that you send them away, they'll slap a red sticker on there saying, we could not do anything with this tape, and they charge you for it. So, they got people in warehouses making, $8 an hour, and there's no care. And
Right.
so that's kind of
It's not personalized.
no, it's not. And it's not paying attention to that detail that's so important when you're dealing with things that are 50 to 100 years old. It's not
Right.
cookie cutter. It's not a sheet of
Yeah.
Xerox paper.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fascinating business that you started, John. I'm thrilled to hear all about it. It's an amazing story, and um, I know how valuable that stuff is. And you hear about people that have that go through some natural disasters, whether it be
Yeah.
tornadoes or or fires or flooding, and it's all gone.
Yeah, and it's happening more and more with our climate change.
Yeah, it is, and to have everything in a box or in a bin one day and then it's gone the next day because of something outside of your control,
hmm Yeah,
um, can compound the devastation that you're going through at that point.
yeah. I see a nice,
'Cause-
nice black and white photo there over your shoulder.
yeah, that's my mother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
that was
nice.
back from the 50s, I'm sure. So
So you
yeah,
see how that's a little bit faded? So the
yep,
light in your office is helping that fade too. I mean, you scan that, that'll be crisp. And
yeah,
you see how beautiful she is,
yeah. My
real.
yeah, my mother was beautiful, and we have we have quite a few of those old pictures and old
hmm
reel to reel videos. And I know
Yeah.
my sister wanted to actually run the projector and watch the videos. And after our conversation here, I'm thinking, well, we may end up with broken tape because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have to
Those
be a
those
little more
projectors are not
careful than
gentle.
right. Yeah, yeah,
Um,
we I have to look into that. But but yeah, it's that history. And my parents are gone now more than 10 years, and
mhm.
so you know we want to preserve the memories that we have, and that my
Sure.
kids have of my
hmm
parents,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's really critical. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing quite a service, and I'm proud of the business that you've built. And when we were first introduced, I was excited to get to know you because I know the kind of value that you deliver. So just certainly want to
Thank
help
you.
you grow that business, through this podcast and
hmm
sharing your story with our listeners, and hopefully they have a similar situation, a similar need. I want you, in fact, at this point, why don't you share your phone number again with us and your email address, so if they want to reach out to you, they can.
Okay. My phone number is 847-951-8220. It's my personal phone also. It's always on me like everyone else. I'll answer if I can. If not, I'll get back to you within 24 hours. Um, I always pride myself on communicating with my clients and potential clients. And it's worth a conversation just to talk about. I don't charge for any consulting or things like that. I feel like a Pied Piper out here, just trying to get my message out.
Sure.
And it really isn't that costly to do. People think, oh my God, I have so many photos. And like I said before, it's, you probably don't have as much as you think and as much good stuff as you think. Um, I mean, even some of the tapes, I don't know if you remember using your camcorder for the first time. The on and off button, was it on? Was it off? I got more pictures of the ground, and people are getting sick watching the video. I haven't
Right.
taken the time to edit my videos yet. It's kind of like the cobbler's kids have no shoes over here. But the it's not costly, and it's very important. And once you do it, you'll have a sense of relief, and because everyone's always thinking about, I have that box, I have that bin,
Right.
I need to do something with it, and it's bothering me. Just get it done.
Let's get it done.
I turn
Yeah.
around stuff really fast, and you'll be done with it. It'll be preserved, it's safe, and you can rest easy.
And delivered personally as opposed to sent
Yeah.
via package carrier, and hopefully
No.
not.
Yeah. I don't trust anyone with my family memories, and I would never trust. I, I treat when I engage with someone, I treat it as it's my own.
Yeah.
It's not going to leave my hands for the most part, except there's a one-off like the reels, and I trust that's a trusted business partner.
Sure.
Um, so it's in good hands when you give it to me, and I try getting it back as fast as possible.
Good to
I
hear.
also
Yeah.
wanted to mention, if any of your listeners or viewers have charities or auction items needed, I have a couple of packages that I put out for a box of 10 VHS tapes or camcorder tapes. I have a box of for people to put children's photographs and memories in, or their artwork that appears everywhere when you're a young parent. And I put it in a nice box with their name on it, a label. And so I put those, I donate those to organizations for their auctions. So if anyone has event coming up, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to help them out.
That's a great idea. And as you and I talked offline, I'm involved in an adoption agency. My children were adopted,
Hmm.
and we actually have a gala coming up, and in April. I'd love to get you
Oh, awesome.
introduced because that's there's so many of us. I mean, everyone in there has been touched by adoption in some way, and you have some of those memories. And so I will definitely connect you there as well
They
because
do.
that's
They do a nice. They people get excited, and the bidding does get pretty high for things. So,
yeah,
uh,
yeah, it definitely. When especially as we get older and the kids get older, you don't want to lose the connection with their childhood. When your kids
mhm.
are in their 20s or approaching 30s, you know, back when they were 6 years old, that's a long time ago, and you don't want to lose that.
Right. Yeah, I hear you. I'm approaching that now. I'm becoming a grandparent for the first time this year. So, uh,
Congratulations, that's
well,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you. My two daughters like to do everything at the same time. So 6 weeks apart will be my first grandchildren.
Nice,
I don't get
that's
to ease
awesome.
into the one practice child.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. You'll do fine. But
Uh,
that's fun. That's awesome.
hmm.
But again, and as life evolves and continues to change, that history is much more valuable,
Yes. Yes.
and that's the thing we can't forget about.
Hmm.
So I do encourage all of our listeners to reach out to you, check out your website to kind of see some of the things you've done, and know that we touch on your history prior to the Family Album Company, because I wanted people to really understand that not only this is a passion of yours, but you've got a lot of experience doing some really big projects,
Hmm.
and so taking that expertise, bringing it down to the consumer level on a personal basis, is you've got the credentials to do that and do it well.
Oh, thank you.
So
Appreciate that.
that's really important,
Thanks.
as
And I'm going
opposed
to
to
stay on
shipping
you
it
now
off
that you
to.
told me you have stuff to digitize. I'm going to stay on you about getting that done.
Yeah, please do. Please do. I need that. But yeah, it's in comparing your services to the big box retailers that you might again ship a box off to and end up getting half of it returned with stickers on it that wasn't illegible, or you know this is a huge difference,
Hmm.
and I can't wait to see my stuff all digitized. So
I look forward to it.
any other parting thoughts here before we wrap up the episode today, John?
Um, if you use me, I'd love to work with everyone, but even if not, this stuff's important. Get it digitized. It's only going to keep decaying and going away. And you'll be amazed that I wanted to comment on the old wedding photos of our parents back when you could throw rice. Those pictures look so cool with the rice in the air. It just, the stuff just pops. But if you look at an old album, it's not as sharp. But once you run it through the software, it's just sharp. And it's not like AI where it's changing anything. It's just bringing
Sure,
out definition better.
it's enhancing it.
So
Yeah, yeah,
it's really a lot of fun to see. So I encourage
that's
you,
great.
everyone, to get it done.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, preserving those memories and enhancing what you could see physically.
Yeah.
That's a bonus.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you for joining us. And like I said, the stratospheric success law that I touched on, give more in value than you receive in payment, and that really, I think we highlighted that uh,
Yeah.
multiple times here. But the value of having your memories preserved, um, for eternity, for decades, far outweighs whatever your fee might be.
Hmm.
So that's why when I picked that law, I really thought it fit this scenario, and I hope it makes sense. But thank you for doing that.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate what you do for small businesses too.
Yeah, yeah, love to do it. It is a passion of mine, and so as we wrap up here, let me just throw in a quick plug for my primary business, because this is a passion of mine, and I do this to serve small businesses and help small businesses grow, because I'm a small business as well, and my primary business is GPS tracking. So completely unrelated to what you do, John. But we help businesses that own commercial vehicles enhance their growth and profit through using GPS tracking technology. So we can help businesses know where their drivers are, where their vehicles are. If there's a theft of an asset, we can help them recover those assets. But we use this technology to enhance these businesses. So if you happen to own a business that has commercial vehicles, I encourage you to reach out to us. I'm at precisefleettracking.com. That's precisefleettracking.com. Or you can call us at 847-865-6008. That's 847-865-6008. We'll have a discussion, see if it fits, and kind of go from there. So encourage you to do that. And that's my plug for the day. So again, to our listeners, thank you for listening, subscribing, and I encourage you to share this podcast with your family, your friends, anybody you know that has old pictures and old archives that they'd like to preserve. John, thank you so much for being with us, and I wish you the best of luck in your growing business. And I'm glad we can be part of helping it grow.
Thanks, Mike. It was great fun. I hope your listeners got a lot of value out of this.
No doubt, no doubt. So to everyone, make it a great week, and we'll talk to you all next week. Take care. Thank you for listening to I Got a Guy podcast. For past podcasts and more information, go to igotaguypodcast.com. That's igotaguypodcast.com. Please share this podcast on your social media feeds and tune in again next week to I Got a Guy podcast.